So here I am at another interesting property, just rocked up, not too far from Caretaker and the other towns around the place. I'll put the details of the distances to the main centres. But this is a really interesting part of the country. I haven't been out here before. So I've been told that this property consists of about 91 hectares of grazing land, and it goes on both sides of the road here. The road's in reasonably good nick. There was no problem getting here. Obviously, it's a nice day today, but even when it was raining, I don't think there would be a problem accessing this property. Just for interest, one of the things I look at when I rock up to any place is the condition of the electrical connections on the outside of the place. This has got 3-phase and it's in really great condition. So that's a good feature, and it tells me that people out here are obviously industrious and attract the power company in a way that makes sure that everything is well maintained. So that's a good thing to know. It's even got street lights, which is pretty flash for a rural part of Paraguay. So we'll just go in and see what we can find. It's a real old classic Paraguayan beauty, landscaped in the very traditional sense. Who knows when it was built? And they often do this thing where they separate the building and have a walk through. Actually, walking through here now, it's like walking through an air condition because all that land down there is just blowing up through here, and it's a really nice cool breeze. I imagine this has been the site of many festive occasions. There would have been some massive parties here in the day. I can only get into one part of the house. The other side's locked up, but I imagine it's much the same. Just looking up, it looks like this part of it's in really decent condition. No water stains or anything. Has got some definite issues in regards to the wall. Not surprisingly at all. We've got old rising damp. And definitely one of those things that you have to look out for. And there are remedies, but it can be one of those things you've got to really work it out. Not always straightforward, sometimes it is, but there's no guarantees. You've got to work with what you've got. Bit of a toilet there, the old Widowmaker. Someone asked me the other day, what is a Widowmaker? It's these shower attachments that they have on the end. And I guess you can figure out why they're called Widowmakers. Suffice to say, you need to be a bit careful when you're using them. Oh, hello, Mum. Beautiful little kittens there. Sorry, Mum, sorry to disturb you. Got some nice fans. And going down to a pretty deep pool. You always got to check your pools out because not all pools are the same in terms of their construction and quality. And the first thing that sticks out to me is that there's no pump or anything, which isn't a deal breaker. You could sort that out. The rest of it doesn't look too shabby, I suppose, but again, it's one of those things you'd need to get assessed before you filled up the water. But the very good news about water is it's got a artesian well, complete with pump. Looks like a pretty serious unit, so that's good news. You got plenty of water, and as long as you've got plenty of water, it gives you some really cool options about how you set up your pool. I'm not a pool expert, but I've always thought about maybe having a pool like that and then running the water down to a secondary pool that may hold tilapia, the fish, have a fish pond and maybe recirculate it. But it's something that you'd really need to think through. If you've got the abundant supply of water, a lot of things are possible. Beautiful mango tree, still holding its mangoes. Most of the mangoes have fallen off the trees around the place. These things, mango roses, are the best mango in the world in my view. There's two main varieties that you see around the place, mango rosa and the smaller, I think it's the Paraguayan mango, and that's more fibrous. But these mangoes are beautiful. And you've got a couple of good mango trees here. Look at this beautiful dog. Hello, buddy. You're beautiful. You are beautiful. Smoochy, Kucha. And your friend here. Hello, Smooch. Okay. Water tank. It's pretty decent. All the fittings and all the rest of it look like they're pretty well done, which is a blessing. I suspect that water would be a real feature here in terms of its abundance and supply, which is good. Looking around the side, this side of the building definitely has some deferred maintenance issues. Yeah, you'd have to sort that out. As I say, there's various ways that that can be done. It's got an old air conditioner in it. So that's the main house. And as I say, it's got a nice breeze up here. In Paraguay, particularly this time of year, if you're living somewhere that isn't up on a hill or something like that, it can get quite draftless and really hot. So to be up a bit higher here, not only is it great for the draft, but it's also good for, in the event of a really heavy downfall, obviously where this property is located is ideal. And that's something you always have to ask yourself about any property you go to, especially when it falls down to flat land like that, is what is the degree to which it floods, if at all. Paraguay does drain pretty well. The land is pretty well draining in general, but especially if you're looking to build, you want to know that wherever you're looking to build, you will not be building somewhere that is prone to flooding. How do you find that out? Well, in terms of floods, well, in some cases those details are lost in the winds of time or just known amongst locals. One of the things I always ask myself if I go to a place and nothing's built is, why is nothing built here? And sometimes it's just because nobody built something there, and it is a sparsely populated country when you get out of the capital. But if you go somewhere and there's a really lovely location and not a building there, you've got to sometimes say, well, maybe they didn't build here for a good reason. And you've just got to make sure that you check that box. Sometimes there's nothing nefarious about it, but it is a question that you've got to ask, because it's so easy to rock up to an ideal location and go, oh, I found it, paradise, only to realise that paradise can be a swamp for a part of a year if you have a really heavy downfall. That's another house over there. I won't venture over there because I think there's a caretaker. I don't want to be rude. Looks pretty basic, but you know, something like that, you could work with it. Be interesting to have a look. Looks like it's quite solidly built, so with a bit of love, you could probably do a lot with it. Another well here. Wow. Who knows where that goes? But one of the good things about this property, in my view, is that it's got this boundary. It's 91 hectares, but they've really defined the main house with a pretty decent fence that you could further fortify. And that's a really good idea, I think. Often when people buy a bigger property, they really struggle with thinking about how they're going to fortify their inner perimeter. And I think that any property should really have an inner perimeter serious fence that's not too big, because you don't want to be spending a fortune. And by bringing your inner perimeter, you can really arrange your security and whatever else you've got, dogs or sensors or cameras or whatever, in a way that can maximize your chances of success and protection. So there you have it. That's the main house, looking out to a part of the property, because as I say, another part is over the road. And this property is just a gradual incline. So that part of the property over the road also, I imagine, would probably have some pretty good sites if anyone wanted to build some more stuff. Bit to work with though. Got some good bars on the windows, which is always advisable. Nice, nice citrus. Oh wow, look at that. Mucho. Mucho, mucho. Oh. You're all right. I think the tree just needs to be watered a bit more, to be honest. Maybe a bit of fertiliser, but better than the crappy old stale stuff that we used to get from goodness knows where. The other thing that I notice about this place is you don't have any discernible doof. No immediate neighbours that I can see, but you know, they have some pretty big speakers, these boys, so you never know. But at the moment, all you can hear is strange insect sounds and the whistling of the wind. It's beautiful. We've got some donkeys over there. Always wanted a donkey. I don't know what I'd do with him. I'd probably just talk to him, relate to his life, maybe. But beautiful animals. Really good compost. Another thing to note is this property is pretty well set up by the looks of it. It's a working ranch, complete with water articulation, I think, throughout the property by the looks of it. It's nice to see really clear, clean water for the animals. And this is the other side of the property, looking over to the old house there, and that's all part of the property, all of those runs and corrals. So if you saw yourself as being hoss from the Ponderosa, this would be ideal. And we're a fair way up this property and come across the water pipe, which I'm told runs up to the water tank up the top of the property. So they've definitely set it up well. And just looking back, we've walked quite a way up the rise, and it's really beautiful, very breezy up here. A great place if you wanted to have some space, or if you were wanting to bring the rest of your suburb or even half the city with you. 91 hectares. That's a big chunk of land. And you can see just down there are the power lines going alongside the road, and that's the boundary of the property. So Both sides of the property have access to power, which is another really great feature. You're not having to drag power miles from one road. If you did anything on this part of the property, you've got electricity basically to the door, which is another awesome feature. And just filling up the bottle, just the water straight out of the well, and oh, so cold and nice. So the water quality is really beautiful, which is another thing you have to always check for, because even if it's got a well, sometimes the water can be a bit sketchy depending on where you are. So the good news is this water is muy bien. We're just going down to the and there's just a donkey in the background wanting to get a bit of video action, but just going down the property again, and my friends tell me that there's some pretty cool fruit trees down here. This one here, it's like a grape that grows on it, and they tell me that it's indigenous to Paraguay. I think I know what it is, but I don't want to misspeak, so I'll double check what it's called. But this is coming down into a really nice lush area. We're back over the other side of the property where the main house is that I showed initially. Oh, nice. Wow. Gracias. This is amazing. So obviously this is where the water runs down to. Oh, something's jumping in the water there. Besides a dog. Hope he doesn't get eaten. That dog's not silly. Probably not the cleanest swimming hole I've ever seen, but it's not really about a swimming hole. It's extra water for the cattle, and a spot that you always know you can get water if you need it. The fact that it's this full at this time of year shows that this area is definitely not short on water, which is really good. And this is the real flat part of the property. And just looking at the type of vegetation indicates to me that it's at least potentially marshy, maybe a bit boggy. I'm not going to walk all through there because you don't know what you might run into, but it's got boundary fences and stuff, so I guess they've been running cattle. Yeah, I don't know. But there's plenty of space further up. That would be the place to build on, and that's definitely why they put the house just up there. How's that, buddy? Nice and cool for a black dog? Yeah, just while we're standing here, I've been watching some mysterious things jumping in the water, and my amigo just informs me that this has actually got an indigenous type of fish in it, and apparently it's very plentiful. And you can see from the activity, if you stand there for a few minutes, there's definitely some activity in there. They say it's very nice to eat, so it's even got its own fish pond, which is kind of nice. As I say, not the cleanest pond I've ever seen, but it's definitely not polluted. It's just a natural sediment. At least you've got some protein if you need it. And the cool thing is it's a natural pond, so you're not really having to do anything. Nature's feeding your fish for you, and they're just waiting for you to come along and catch them and eat them if that's your thing. And just walking back up the trail from that pond, my friend tells me that that flat area is not prone to flooding, at least in the time he's lived here, and I think that he knows the area pretty well, but I'm not sure whether it would be an issue because you've got so many other options that a flat area is a flat area. It's always good to at least query these things. As I've said, you can only do your best and try and get the information, but it's one of the things about Paraguay is information is sometimes sparse or at least difficult to find. So you got to think on your feet and not take any risks that you don't have to. And the beautiful thing about this site is because it's got that gradual elevation, you don't have to do anything silly. And we've just come up to the stable area and there's another fruit tree. My friends tell me that it is another fruit tree that's only common to Paraguay. I'm a bit of a fruit tard in the sense that I'm not as good on my fruit as I should be. If Brenda was here, she'd be able to reel off what it is, but it's like a really amazing kind of sweet, like guava-y thing. Got a big pip, but beautiful. Some beautiful old fruit trees on this property that someone would have planted back in the day, and that is beautiful. Also comes with a stable. It's got 3-phase power all hooked up, machine for processing the feed, and more fruit trees. My friends tell me that there's other interesting fruit trees that we're yet to encounter, but good lighting here and it's well electrified. 3-phase, you can run anything. So as is the custom here, they bring their cattle in to this yard of a night to keep them safe. So you've got everything set up to do that. Beautiful, mamon. Wow, muy bien. Paraguay. It's also got a scale for weighing cattle, which any self-respecting ranch person would require. It's all kitted up. Cool. Off to the market for you. Mercado. But it's all those extra things that if you didn't have them, it would take a lot of setting up to get them sorted. So,
puede probar. También bueno comer. Abatico.
yeah. Lots of nuts in there, but it's also sweet. It's like the caretaker's house. This is obviously not the part he lives in. It's the back sort of animal areas, I think. Mandarina. Muy bien. And so this is the caretaker's house. I filmed a bit earlier. Pretty basic. It's reasonably okay, pretty straight. It's not like crumbling. You could do a lot to that. The roof looks a bit in need of adjustment, but it's fairly normal to see a bit of bowing. Those tile roofs are pretty heavy. But that's a straight enough little place, you could work with it. The biggest problem is often before you leave a Paraguay property, you get loaded up. So if only I could get this stuff back to the place I used to live, you could charge a fortune for each of these, but it's mango season at the moment, so you got to gorge on it while it's here. The property's in the department of Cordillera, about 25 kilometres from the township of Tobati. It's a cool little town. Population, depending on who you are, somewhere between 20 to 30,000 people. It's a good straight run to Tobati and all of the other locations that are listed there. And the roads to and from the property, in my view, are very good. The fact that the power supply is in such good condition there suggests to me the authorities take that area pretty seriously. It's quite a bit of cattle activity going on, so that's a pretty important part of the economy of the country. So it seems that things are kept pretty tidy in terms of the access to the property. And based on those numbers, I think that the value is really there. Of course, there's that flat spot. I didn't walk it, so I don't really know how solid it is. The good news is there's so much of that property that is on the higher ground, so I don't really think that would be a problem. And ideally, I think this property would suit someone who wanted to either have a massive slab of land and have some cattle, or you could also potentially build further up and use that lower area for cattle. So there's a lot of options, but that price point per hectare, in my view, is really good value. And that's reflected in the fact that it's a big property. I said in the video it was 91 hectares, but it's actually closer to 92 hectares. That's a big slab of land, and because it's big, the price per hectare is generally more cost effective. The property would potentially be really attractive if there were a number of people that wanted to go into it. Of course, all information in this video needs to be verified. With this property in Paraguay or anywhere else in the world, nothing's for certain until all the due diligence is done. Don't buy anything unless you're in the country. Take your time, make sure you're happy with the property that you're looking to buy and compare it to other properties in the area. The important thing is that you do your due diligence, and to do your due diligence properly, you have to take your time. Until next time, take care. Ciao.